Hey Chud Maxers. So today we're going to be playing Blood West and talking about why people, specifically capitalists, just keep bashing on the idea of a utopia. So, as we're loading into this, a lot of people say that a utopia is impossible because there's always going to be someone else that you can't, and there's always going to be a group that has to like do all the work for a utopia to work. So, for example, if you had or if you had machines doing all the work, no, that's a stupid point. See, I'm very dumb, and I will
The
say a lot
meeting
of
out
dumb
ain't
stuff.
nice at
And
all.
this is my first time doing this, and I'm also trying to pay attention to the game a little bit, so I don't die,
Back
which
into
I
the
will anyways,
void.
because I suck. See, this is what it means to Chud Max, is to be terrible at everything and very unlikable. Anyways, as I was saying, the main problem people have with utopias is that there's always going to be someone that has to do all the work. You can't have everyone be perfectly peaceful all the time. There's always going to be at least some kind of problem. But I think that's just not the case because, I mean, ideally, a utopia, it would still work because everyone has to have something that they have to do to be able to enjoy their time that they aren't doing anything or they're just relaxing. Like there has to be some sort of value to the
Get
relaxing for
back
it
to
to mean
hell.
anything, for it to actually be an enjoyable utopia. But I don't think that everyone should be slaves. I don't think everyone needs to work 20-hour shifts every day just to maintain the perfect world where there's no issues. I actually think we can work with a lot less time. So I'm thinking that in an ideal world, every all production would be automated and you wouldn't have like factory jobs where you'd you'd have people on the floor doing grueling labor for 12 hours just to make products for everyone else to live on. I don't think we need that. We have the technology to be able to automate everything if we really put our minds to it. And even if we don't right now, that's why we're still advancing our technology. We're doing that all the time. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where we can just
I lay thee to rest.
have everything be produced by a machine. But then the question is, if everything's done by a machine, then no one has a job. And I just said that
And
everyone would have a
stay
job.
down.
So even if you have a machine that does all the work, there's still a chance that the machine breaks, and
I
that's
have
what
a
you have to
feeling
account
this
for.
will come in
So,
handy.
like, in a theoretical
Dusty,
utopian
dark
factory,
corridors
you'd have
full
a
of
machine doing
unknown
all the work,
horrors.
and the human aspect of it comes from the people inspecting the machines to make sure they don't break. And if they do break, they have to fix it. And it's going to be a very boring job. So, ideally, it would just be 4-hour shifts every day.
Bleed the
And it's
freak.
4-hour shifts. And there's a lot of benefits to doing really short shifts. For example, if you had a really short
Be
shift,
gone.
then you could have like 6 people working the same day, have your factory running
Can't
24/7,
say no to
and
such a
then you're never missing a
curiosity.
second of production. And that's just very, that would just make a really good factory. That would be very efficient. And we'd have no more supply and demand because we would just have a surplus of everything. That's really what a utopia is about. A utopia is about having a surplus of everything, so no one has to like fight for resources. That's one of the biggest reasons why we even have a lot of our problems is like poverty and not having access to stuff. So having just such a high surplus would mean everyone's happy and no one would be poor and no one would have to spend all their money like just buying food or paying rent because we would just have so much of it. So automatically, if we have technology to automate all jobs, all manual labor, then we've already created a utopia. We just have to like implement the actual conditions for utopia, which is my
And
low
don't
shifts.
come
So
back.
alongside with having 6 people working this basically the same job is also that you only have 4 hours of work. Everyone would be able to have so much more free time to be able to enjoy whatever
Alas, it's
they want to
never
do. If they
enough.
want to like make art, um, do video production like I'm doing, if everyone just had like the rest of the 20 hours of their day at their disposal, then everyone would be less stressed out, everyone would be a lot happier, and they would have, and like there wouldn't be really like a waste of time for anything because you just have so much time to do whatever you want, and you're still doing work, so there's still that value to the free time. So again, those short working hours, that would be in an ideal world, in a utopia, and that's where the possibility of utopia comes from if we have the technology. That's what a lot of communist thinkers are proposing. It's actually like not well known, but actually in Marx's theory, he writes about how you have to have a capitalist society as a precursor to a communist or a socialist one, because capitalism forces the technological advancement and the infrastructure to be built that allows for a communist society to truly flourish. Because ideally, all you would have to do is you'd have all the infrastructure you would need for centuries, and you just maintain that, and that's a lot easier than building new infrastructure. So that's why a lot of people miss that. And I think some tankers will say, oh, that's why the Soviets were using a capitalist system in order to build their country up. But I don't think that was really the reason. I think the main reason was that Stalin was just really power hungry, and he wanted to turn his poverty-stricken country into like a military superpower, which is exactly what happened, and it killed a lot of people in the 5-year plan. So I really don't think that's the best way to go about it, is to do it in such a really small, compact way, because realistically you need a lot of progress, especially from the 1920s, to be able to get to an actual utopia level society. Because like I said, you'd need to be able to automate most, if not all, manual labor, which they did not have any of the technology for at the time. So by progressing technology so fast, Stalin kind of just ruined it. He could have totally made, like, I saw what he was going for, but he really didn't have to do the 5-year plan. And the Great Leap, what China did, that was more of a policy thing than like an ideology thing. Because Stalin was like, he just, like I said, he was power hungry. He wanted to make a strong nation that could compete with like the United States, Germany, France, all those superpowers at the time. He wanted to be able to compete with them, and he had that massive country and all those people. So realistically, he was able to do it, but he did it so fast that it killed so many people. You couldn't really say that was like a good thing in the end. It wasn't really worth it. And the average peasant, they're still working 12-hour days, and they still have to work in such harsh conditions because they didn't really do anything to fix that. They just made it more intense so they could build everything even faster. In the Great Leap, that was, I'm pretty sure he made iron production to such an unreasonable number, or at least like a number that was high enough that people thought it wasn't really feasible enough. So they would take the metal from their hoes and their other tools, and they would turn those in to meet quotas. But then eventually there was no more tools because everyone just ate up the production. So I think that was mostly a policy failure. I don't think we need to meet quotas, because when you have to meet quotas, then quality is obviously going to drop. So if you're trying to build up a nation, you need quality, or else it's just not going to work out. So yeah, that was China's main issue. Back to what I was saying. So about the utopian nation, a lot of capitalists are going to try to deny that you can make a true utopia. And honestly, you really can't say that, because, I mean, we never really tried building utopia. We've just been trying to build up a nation that's flourishing, which is not the same as a utopia. And The
Sleep
capitalist
now,
way of thinking
forever.
is actually that you want to keep a problem, because if you keep a problem, you can keep making money off the problem. But if you get rid of the problem, then you can't make money off of the problem. So one example of that is the McDonald's ice cream machine thing. It's always broken because the company that makes the machines has a thing where only they can fix it, and they
You're
intentionally
not
make
welcome
redundancy
here.
so that McDonald's has to pay their company to fix the machine, and no one else is allowed to do it. So that's just free money forever, and if McDonald's keeps using their machines, they're gonna have to keep paying that. And that's a really blatant example of capitalism intentionally making redundancy, intentionally making something that you have to, or that you have to keep paying for, because that makes more money than a one-time purchase that lasts forever. Guns are actually like perfect capitalism in my opinion, because if you buy a gun, pretty much every gun company is going to try to make it so that your gun is as quality as possible, and it'll last you 20 years as long as you keep it well oiled. And I think that's like that's what capitalists see when they see
Hellish spawn.
capitalism. They imagine that sort of, everyone wants to be competitive, everyone wants to make the best product, but that's just really not the case, because in the end it doesn't make enough money. It doesn't generate enough profit for a consistent amount of time to keep meeting those like quarterly quotas that investors will put on companies. Like I feel like we could have like an okay capitalism. I think capitalism can work in a society if we didn't have so much like leeches, right? That's what they are. They're leeches. They leech off of profits. They We've lost this idea in our heads that profit comes from an item, because at first, when we were first making money, you were supposed to do product to money to buy another product. So how that would work is, oh, I have a cow, I'll sell it for 10 gold coins so I can buy bread, right? The money is the middleman there, it's not the primary concern. But then now in modern society, it kind of shifted towards, we need to, I have money, I'm gonna buy a property. I'm gonna buy a property in Egypt, and then I'm gonna rent that out. So what they do is they give you the property and you rent it out, and you turn money into money. And that's also like with stocks too. Stocks are more direct. You don't even buy a physical item when you buy a stock. That's literally digital information. It's not even real. And NFTs, coding it's not a real thing. Like this game, it's not a real physical product that is being sold. I don't have to produce anything to make this game. I just have to put in the work, and I think that work is what gives a game value. And yeah, I think that is a fair sort of, because that's not even really money to money, because that's labor to money, which is probably the most efficient, like reasonable use of capitalism. If we're ignoring money versus money, I'd like it to be labor to money, which is what this game is. Someone made this game, someone spent hours coding and making sprites,
Into
and we have
nothingness.
this game, and it can be sold to me, and I buy it once and I keep it forever. That's good capitalism. But when we lose sight of that, and
One
we
and
get
done.
our money to money, we get our investors investing in stocks, which is like, it doesn't even make sense why it should make
Can't
money,
say
but it
no.
does. And now we just have a whole society that revolves around these rich people that turn money into money, and nothing's actually getting done, because when you can turn money into money, then there's no reason to make a product anymore, because that's the most efficient way to get more money. So it stalls progress, and that's why we don't really have. There's a few reasons why we don't have a lot of advancement these days. Like there's no more Isaac Newtons and stuff. No, because it's not profitable to make new science, especially like with how much we already have. It's really hard to. You need teams and teams of people to make discoveries. You can't just. And you need billions of dollars. Like those particle accelerators that collide particles, and like that's where we learn a lot of our new information is by using experiments that are just so exorbitantly expensive like that. So we really can't have one man like Isaac Newton, apple fell on his head, boom, new whole field, new whole scientific principle. The world's just not that simple anymore. We can't make advancements like that. So that's probably the biggest reason why it's slowed down. But another part of it is that a product doesn't have to be better anymore, and it's actually more profitable if it's made worse. So for example, the iPhone is a really good example. When you buy an iPhone, a new one comes out next year, and you probably have to buy a new phone. Well, at least for that status part, like you don't have to buy a new phone, but it's that status that like if you want to be part of the normal class of people, that you're gonna buy the new phone. So
There is something
redundancy, it makes money, right? And that's the main issue. That's the main reason why we don't have a utopia. It's just we're not trying anymore because it's not making money. And that's the main problem with capitalism. It's only going to find the best way to make money. It's not going to find the best way to improve society because that doesn't make as much money as making it a little worse. And I'll probably get into other examples of that in the future. I'll probably make a whole video on that, but that's just like the main that's just the main capitalist reason. Capitalists are literally at fault for why we can't have a utopia. If we didn't focus on money and we focused on our material condition, then we'd be in a lot better place. We'd live a lot healthier, we'd have a lot more abundance, and we could enjoy our time. As I presumed in the start of the video when I said that when you make when you have those like 4-hour shifts, you can just enjoy all your free time and you don't have to stress about anything, and life is good. If nothing happens, life is good. Alright, people don't really think about that because they think, oh, I'll just be bored, but there's other things to do in a utopia than just sit around and do nothing. Like I said earlier, you have time to do art. You have time to enjoy yourself, and if there's an overabundance, then if you waste money this week learning how to play guitar, and you realize it's not for you, that's not $1,000 that you're never getting back, and you just have to suffer because you made a little mistake, right? You're not going to get punished for that anymore, so people will be more able to do pursuits of the arts, and we'll have like a more competitive art scene, and art will be good again. I mean, I'm not saying it's not good right now, because art made this, and this is awesome.
What do we have here?
But I'm just saying, like a more competitive, more better art scene would mean better stuff for everyone. There's still that little competition that you can have. You don't have to have no competition in a communist utopian society. That's not what that means. Like a lot of people think that communism equals you have no rights and you just work all day and you can't do anything. And in utopias you sit around and like pick your nose. That's not what it is. It doesn't have to be that way. And we have to acknowledge that that's not the best way to even run things in the first place. So we as people, as communists, we shouldn't be trying to strive for a do nothing all day society. I actually think it would be better if we had redundancy as like if we like had those factories that make everything and we intentionally make it so that things break every few weeks or they need maintenance every few weeks, that keeps everyone in a job. So like if we just made machines that never broke, then there's no reason to do work. But if we artificially make that reason to do work, then we can still have those jobs and people will still have that sort of rhythm, like status quo of having a job, because that's what we're all used to.
It's never enough.
And I think that's what we're probably gonna have to be used to for the rest of human history. I've done a lot of backtracking. I'll like say something and then I'll say it again 10 minutes later. That's just how I'm gonna be. But yeah, I could keep talking forever if I really want to, but I'm not gonna keep talking forever because I have to pump this video out so I can make more videos and make money so I can buy a gun, because that's all I really care about. So that's gonna be it. See you guys.